Imagine standing by the beach on a quiet night. Suddenly, the horizon glows as if the ocean itself is on fire. Flames seem to fall from the sky, sizzling as they hit the waves. It's a vision you'd think came straight out of a myth. But for generations along Australia's coast, elders have spoken of a day when fire rained from the sea. Today we'll follow those stories, from whispers told around campfires to science that may prove them true. If you're fascinated by hidden histories and cosmic mysteries, hit like now and share this yarn with a mate. You're about to hear a tale that could change how you see the ocean and the sky. Long before any telescope was turned skyward, the first Australians looked to the horizon and listened to the sea. For tens of thousands of years, their lives were woven together with the tides, the stars and the creatures between. On calm nights, the moon painted a silver path across the water, and children sat in the sand, listening to stories of a time when everything changed. They were told that once, fire poured from the ocean and the world was never the same. These tales weren't simply campfire fables. They carried lore, ethics, memory, and warnings. Among the Yolngu, the sea holds spirits who watch over those who fish and swim. Along the southern coast, the Gunditj Mara speak of ashes in the sky when the heavens glow red. In the central desert, the Luritja recall a fire devil who fell from above and burned the land for breaking sacred law. Each story is a thread in a tapestry that connects community to place and memory to observation. In this film, we'll walk alongside those threads, exploring how a legend of fire raining from the sea could be rooted in real events. From meteor strikes and undersea explosions to shimmering auroras that turned night into day. We'll also meet scientists and elders who see these legends as living libraries. By blending personal experiences with the latest research, we'll show how myth and science together can shed light on our planet's deep past. And along the way, we'll leave space for wonder, because some mysteries are meant to be felt as much as understood. Take, for example, the story that a Tiwi Islander named Uncle Jimmy used to tell his grandkids. Uncle Jimmy was born in the 1940s and spent most of his life fishing off the coast. He'd sit by the campfire at night and speak of a night his own grandfather remembered when the sea seemed to explode. According to his tale, the sky lit up like a million campfires. A roaring came from the horizon, and trails of flame fell toward the water. The waves hissed and steamed where the light touched them, and the air was filled with the smell of burnt iron. Men dropped their spears and women gathered the children, convinced the spirits were angry. To modern ears, it sounds like something out of Hollywood. But astrophysicists such as Dr. Dwayne Hamaker have heard similar accounts across Australia. In the central desert, the Luritja tell of a fireball that blasted the Henbury crater field about 4,700 years ago. They describe it as a fire devil sent to punish those who broke sacred law. The site remains taboo, and water collected in the craters is left untouched because elders warn that a fire demon will fill anyone who drinks with iron. Western scientists only identified the craters in 1931, but the oral account had been passed down for some 200 generations. When Uncle Jimmy's grandfather spoke of fire raining from the sea, he might have been describing a bolide, a bright meteor that explodes low in the atmosphere. Such fireballs produce sonic booms and can fragment over the ocean. Witnesses often see pieces fall into the water, where they hiss and produce steam. The shockwave can shake the ground and set vegetation alight along the shore. Imagine seeing that without any warning. You'd think the world was ending. For Uncle Jimmy and his family, the story wasn't just entertainment. It was a reminder to respect the sea and the sky because they hold powers beyond human control. And it's this respect, passed on through story, that kept generations alert to danger. On the northeastern coast, the Yolngu people speak of spirits beneath the waves. One well-known story tells of sea spirits who were angered when people broke taboo by taking food they weren't meant to eat. The spirits sent fire to cleanse the ocean. Elders describe towering columns of light rising from the water and rain of embers falling back. To them, it wasn't just a metaphor, it was an admonition. Among the Pitjantjatjara farther inland, hunters once roasted an emu that was considered sacred. They looked to the south and saw smoke rising from the horizon, a sign known as chura. They believed it was poisonous flame sent by ancestral beings as punishment. The message was clear: if you defy law, the sea and sky will respond. When modern volcanologists saw footage of the Hunga Tonga Hunga Hapai eruption in 2022, they watched a massive plume rise out of the ocean, sending ash and lightning 58 kilometers into the air and triggering tsunamis across the Pacific. It was one of the most powerful eruptions ever recorded. Hearing elders talk about flames leaping from the ocean is eerily similar. Underwater volcanoes, like those in the Banda Sea or south of New Zealand, can erupt with such force that they create steam explosions. These eruptions produce incandescent fountains that burst through the surface, hurling molten rock and glowing water droplets skyward. To someone on the shore, it would look like the ocean was throwing fire. Anthropologist Daisy Bates recorded a story from the early 1900s in which coastal people fled inland because the sea smoked and spit fire. They thought spirits were angry because young men had broken ceremonial rules. When geologists later surveyed the area, they found evidence of a submerged volcanic vent that had erupted within human memory. It shows how the laws encoded in story can guide behavior and also preserve ecological knowledge. The warning to respect certain animals isn't superstition, it's about balance. And the tale of sea spirits punishing those who disobey is a vivid way to remember the real dangers that lurk beneath the waves. In the far south, on nights when the sun sends charged particles sweeping across the atmosphere, the southern sky can turn crimson. Most people know this as the aurora australis. For coastal communities, that red glow often ripples across the water, making it look as if the sea itself is aflame. The Gunditjmara of Western Victoria call these lights puai buai, meaning ashes. To them, the shimmering curtains are fires in the spirit world. The Gunai Kurnai of Gippsland say they are bushfires lit by ancestor Mungan Ngur. His anger burns when people break sacred initiation rules, and the red glow is a warning. In southwestern Queensland, elders speak of the feast fires of the Ula Pika, ghostly beings who light fires in the sky and speak to those who listen. For some, the aurora's red hue was associated with blood and death. Communities in New South Wales and South Australia saw it as the blood of warriors spilled in the heavens. Fear of the lights helped enforce social laws. If you misbehaved, the sky might bleed. In 1851, a journalist in Adelaide recorded that when a rare red aurora lit the southern sky, local Aboriginal people beat drums, sang and danced to show respect. They urged the sun to keep moving so the red glow would fade. Today, scientists can explain that the aurora appears when charged particles excite oxygen high above the Earth. The red color comes from atoms glowing at around 200 kilometers altitude. Yet the emotional response recorded in oral traditions captures something science can't: the awe and dread felt when the night suddenly turns to fire. Imagine sitting by the sea when a crimson curtain unfurls across the horizon, reflecting in the waves like an upside-down bonfire. Without a radio forecast or warning from a meteorologist, you'd feel a chill. The ancestors saw these events so infrequently that the memory lingered for generations. Their stories remind us that the sky isn't always a predictable backdrop. Sometimes it speaks, and when it does, it often reflects the best and worst of human behavior back at us. Not all fires that touch the sea come from the sky. Sometimes the sea itself breathes fire. Along the coral coast of Western Australia, there's a story told about a time when the earth heaved and the ocean boiled. Fishermen heard a rumbling like distant thunder. Suddenly, a column of steam burst from the water and glowing rocks shot upward. For hours, the sea frothed and spat embers. The elders said the spirit of the deep was angry because someone had broken the rules of sharing fish from a sacred reef. The memory echoes events that geologists now recognize as submarine eruptions. When an undersea volcano erupts, it can trigger phreatomagmatic explosions, blasts caused by magma instantly heating seawater. These explosions fling incandescent lava and steam into the air. In 2012, an eruption occurred off the coast of Tonga that built a new island overnight. Satellite images showed a plume rising through the clouds. The 2022 Hunga Tonga Hunga Ha'apai eruption was even bigger, sending shockwaves around the globe and creating an ash column taller than Mount Everest. Although far from Australia's shores, such events illustrate the raw power hidden beneath the waves. There is evidence that similar submarine volcanoes exist along the Pacific Rim of Australia and may have erupted in the past within human memory. Oral accounts from coastal New South Wales speak of a breathing sea that coughed fire. In the Gulf of Carpentaria, the Yanyuwa people tell of Narduna, a serpent who sleeps beneath the water. When angered by disrespect, he sends up steam and burning rocks to remind people that the sea is his. For scientists, these stories hint at past eruptions now eroded by ocean currents. They're also a reminder that what we call myth can contain geological information. When the narrator says the ocean coughed flame, we can imagine the violent interaction of lava and water. When people recall steam rising and fish dying, it's not a fever dream. It's a community witnessing the earth express itself. And woven through it all is a moral: care for your waters, or they might remind you who is really in charge. The final thread in this tapestry turns the story on its head. Fire raining from the sea isn't always about punishment or doom. In some dreamtime narratives, it's the moment that gives life. Among the Gunai Kurnai, the story of Mungan ends not just with devastation, but with rebirth. When Mungan cast down a great fire and a wave swept the land to punish those who leaked sacred secrets, those who survived were said to have been transformed. His son and daughter-in-law became dolphins, guardians of the coast. The survivors' descendants were taught to respect the sea because it had spared them. To some elders, the fire wasn't only wrath, but purification. It's a perspective echoed in ecology. After a bushfire, the forest floor, though blackened, is rich with nutrients, seeds that can only germinate after heat burst open. New growth emerges stronger. Astrobiologists extend the idea even further. They argue that meteor impacts in Earth's early oceans may have delivered amino acids and sparked chemical reactions that led to life itself. In other words, cosmic fire touching water might have kick-started the chemistry of life. The story of fire raining from the sea then becomes not just a memory of a disaster, but a metaphor for creation. In the Kimberley, a painting shows a serpent rising from fiery waves, spitting sparks that turn into fish and birds. The caption explains that before the serpent's fire, there was nothing. Afterwards, there was abundance. It's a reminder that the forces we fear are also the ones that make our world possible. As one elder told an anthropologist in the 1980s, without fire, there's no new country. Modern science is beginning to agree. Hydrothermal vents, where seawater meets magma, are among the most likely places for life to begin. They are literal fires under the sea. When we listen to the old stories with open minds, we hear hints of this. They invite us to see destruction and creation as part of the same cycle, a cycle that has been turning since long before humans walked these shores. By now, you've walked along our shore of stories. You've sat with Uncle Jimmy as he remembered a night when meteors hissed into the sea. You've listened to Yolngu elders talk of spirits sending fire to punish taboo, and to geologists pointing at underwater volcanoes that breathe steam and flame. You've watched the aurora turn waves to molten light and felt the earth cough up islands in a single breath. And you've considered that the very fires we fear may have seeded life itself. These narratives aren't just curiosities, they're maps, guiding families to higher ground when the ocean recedes, warning young men not to break sacred law, teaching children that everything is connected. When we combine indigenous knowledge with scientific inquiry, we find a fuller picture of our planet's past and a richer way to face its future. So, next time you stand by the sea at night, remember that the water and sky have memory. They speak through stories told by elders and through the quiet glow of the southern lights. Listen carefully and you might hear echoes of ancient fires and the promise of new beginnings. If this journey moved you, please leave a like, share it with friends who love mysteries, and drop a comment with your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you won't miss the next yarn. Together, let's keep these stories alive and keep looking up and out to sea. Ooh.